All right. So the first thing that we're going to do with this lesson is we're going to look and review on how to divide decimals by a whole number. So we're going to review the standard algorithm. So our first problem that we're going to take a look at, it says Lola, Tanisha, Sarita, and Tia receive their bill for a snack and drinks. If they share the cost equally, how much does each girl owe? So here's the bill that they have. We're really going to look at the total and remember that they are going to share equally. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take $10.96 and I'm going to divide it by 4. So do 10.96 and I'm going to divide that by 4. And so when I take $10.96, remember that when we divide the decimal, the first thing that we're going to do when it's a whole number is we take the decimal and we bring it straight up. So the decimal is going to come right up here and then I'm not going to worry about it anymore. So 4 is going to go into 10 2 times. 4 times 2 is going to be 8. I'm going to subtract. I have 2 left over. My next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to bring down the 9. 4 goes into 29 7 times. That becomes 4 times 7 is 28. I subtract. I have 1 left over. I bring down the 6. 4 goes into 16 4 times. So the total for each girl is going to be $2.74. Now I can check to make sure that my answer is reasonable by going and doing some estimation. So when I estimate this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to find so I'm going to look at the division problem. So I had 1096 divided by 4, and I'm going to find some numbers. I'm going to leave 4 alone, and I'm going to take 4, and I'm going to find a number, multiple of 4 that's near $10.96, which is going to be 12. 12 divided by 4 is going to be 3. So that makes my answer of $2.74 reasonable because 12 divided by 4 is equal to 3. That we are going to take a look at is going to be on the next page. And so it says Gina will make 12 equal payments to pay for her new computer. How much is Gina's monthly payments? If we take a look, the total cost of the computer is going to be $809.40. And she's going to make equal payments of 12. So she's going to make the payments in 12 installments. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to assess for reasonableness. So I'm going to estimate. So I'm going to just take the 12 and I'm going to turn it into 10. And then I'm going to take the 809 and I'm going to round it up to 810. And so when I do my estimation, my answer is going to be around $81. So if I don't get an answer around $81, that tells me that somewhere I made a goof. So I'm going to go ahead and start dividing. So 12 goes outside the box, 809 and 40 goes inside the box. The first step that we do when we're dividing by a whole number is we bring the decimal straight up and we place it right above where the decimal is in the dividend, and then we start our division process. So 12 goes into 80. It's going to go in there 7 times. 8 times, not 7 times, 6 times. 8 times, 12 times 6 is going to be 72. So let me change that. Times 6 is going to be 72. I'm going to subtract. I have 8 left over. I'm going to bring down the 9. 12 is going to go into 89 7 times. 12 times 7 is going to be 84. I'm going to subtract. I have 5 left over. My next step is to bring down the 4. I've already placed my decimal up in my quotient, so I don't have to worry about it. 12 goes into 54 4 times. And so 12 times 4 is going to be 48. Subtract, I have 6 left over. Bring down the 0. 12 goes into 65 times. 12 times 5 is 60. Subtract, and I have nothing left over. So the monthly payments are going to be $67.45. It's a little low compared to $81, but still reasonable because we have to remember that here I rounded down and here I rounded up. So this was an overestimate of what her monthly payments were going to be. If we take a look down at the convince me, is we can check our answer. It says, how can you use multiplication to check the answer to the problem shown? So what we can do is we can take our quotient, which was $67.45, and we can multiply that by 12. And when we multiply that by 12, if we get 809 and 40 cents, our answer is going to be correct. So let's multiply it and see what, again, remember, we're going to ignore the decimal until after, which is the opposite of when we divide, we worry about the decimal first. So 2 times 5 is going to be 10. I'm going to put down a 0 and regroup the 1. 2 times 4 is going to be 8 plus 1 is going to be 9. 2 times 7 is going to be 14. I regroup the 1. 2 times 6 is going to be 12. Plus 1 is going to be 13. Put my placeholder down. 1 times 5 is 5. 1 times 4 is 4. 1 times 7 is 7. 1 times 6 is going to be 6. So go ahead and add them together. So I have 0, 14. I regroup the 1. 1, 4, and 4 is 9. 3 and 7 is 0. Regroup the 1. 1, 1, and 6 is going to be 8. Look at how many values I have up here in my factors. I have 2 values behind the decimal. So I need to have 2 values behind the decimal in my product. So 809 and 40 cents. My answer is correct. All right, let's move into your guided practice. So your guided practice says, how do you know where to place a decimal point in the quotient when dividing a whole number with decimals? So anytime that we place a decimal with a whole number for the quotient, it's always going to go above the decimal point in the dividend. So that's where we're going to put it. It always goes above the decimal point within the dividend. Okay. Number 2 says, how would you estimate the quotient of 722 divided by 89? So what I would do is I would find compatible numbers. So I'm going to use compatible numbers. So to estimate, I use compatible numbers. And so I'm going to take 89 and I'm going to round it to 90. And then I look for a math fact of 90 that's near 722. So really I'm going to take a look at my 9 and then I look at the first 2 digits. So I'm going to change this to 720. And when I do 720 divided by 90, I end up with 8. So I would place the decimal in this problem to find the quotient. I would place the decimal in the ones place. All right, let's go ahead and get some practice in. So the first one that we're going to take a look at is number 3. So I have 5 divided into 34.75. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the decimal and I'm going to bring it straight up. And then I'm not going to worry about the decimal anymore. So 5 is going to go into 35. 6 times 5 times 6 is going to be 30. I'm going to subtract. I have 4 left over. I'm going to bring down the 7. 5 goes into 47 9 times. 5 times 9 is going to be 45. I'm going to subtract. I have 2 left over. Bring down my 5. 5 goes into 25 5 times. I'm going to multiply. 5 times 5 is 25. I have nothing left over, so I don't have to worry about the remainder for this one. All right, let's take a look at number 4. So for problem number 4, I'm taking 18 and I'm going to divide it into 153. So 18 is going to go into 153. So I'm going to look at how many times it's going to go in there. So 18 is going to go into 153 8 times. And when I get 18 times 8, I'm going to go ahead and just multiply that off to the side. It was nice that they told us what we're going to multiply by. So 8 times 8 is going to be 64. So I'm put down the 4, regroup the 6. 8 times 1 is going to be 8 plus 6 is going to be 14. So 18 times 8 is going to be 144. I'm going to subtract. And when I subtract, I get 9 left over. So in our last topic, we were writing 8 remainder 9, but now we're working with decimal multiplication, and so we are no longer going to be writing remainders. We're actually going to be finding decimal remainders. So to find a decimal remainder, what I need to do is I'm going to place a decimal point behind my ones place or behind the 8. And when I place that decimal point behind the 8, what that gives me permission to do is it gives me permission to add as many zeros as I want to be able to bring down. Now, I typically don't add the zeros up in the dividend. I add them down in my workspace, and I just kind of add them as I go. So I'm not necessarily bringing them down. So then I look at how many times 18 goes into 90. 18 goes into 90 5 times. 18 times 5 is going to be 90. I'm going to subtract, and I have zeros left over, so I don't need to add any more zeros. So my answer is going to be 8 and 5 tenths. So let's go ahead and take a look at another problem. So I'm actually going to jump down into your guys' independent practice, and I'm going to take a look at problem number 9. So problem number 9, I have 22 and 34 hundredths, and I'm going to divide this by 10. And so what's nice about this one, if you guys recall, we have that multiple of 10 rule. And that multiple of 10 rule says that I can simply, when I'm dividing by a power of 10, I am going to take my decimal. And in this case, because I'm dividing, I'm going to move it one place over to the left. And so my quotient is going to be 2 and 234 thousandths. Okay, let's take a look at problem number 11. So when I look at problem number 11, I have 275 divided by 25. So I'm going to take 25 and I'm going to divide that into $2.75. I'll put my little dollar symbol there so I remember to put it. And I'm actually just going to go ahead and write it in my quotient so I don't forget about it. And the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my decimal and bring it straight up, and then I don't have to worry about my decimal anymore. 25 goes into 2. 0 times is important that I put that placeholder there because I need a placeholder in front of my decimals. Then I look at how many times 25 goes into 27. 25 goes into 27 one time. 25 times 1 is 25. I'm going to subtract. I have 2 left over. I bring down the 5. 25 goes into 25 one time. That becomes 25. I subtract. I have 0 left over. So my answer is going to be 11 cents. So what I'd like for you guys to do at this point in time is I'd like for you guys to start on your independent practice. You are going to do problems 5 through 8. Then you are going to, on your math practices and problem solving, you're going to do problems 15, 17, and 19.